I am Beverly Jacobs. I'm an artist member of OCCCA, and I'm going to be your moderator tonight. And I'm so glad that you could join us. So let's get started. I want to introduce Evelyn Alou, OCCCA's Assistant Director, to share with everyone our exciting upcoming shows.
Hi, everyone. I'm Evelyn Alou. Can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to start out by talking about some of the different exhibitions that are coming up at OCCCA. And the first one is Crises Mode. This is an online exhibition, as you all know, and congratulations to all of you who have made it into this exhibition tonight. I'm anxious to see what we're going to be showing, but just keep in mind this exhibition is going to be running until December the 30th. Oh, there we go. Vision 2020, November 7th, which is next week, until December the 19th. Vision 2020 presents the work of 3 artists working in 2 distinct medias, assemblage and fashion-related paintings and drawings. And yet there is a mysterious affinity between them. George Herms gives charmed life to inanimate objects with gestures of purest surrealism. Zandra Rhodes, DBE, designs avant-garde fashion. And Jeffrey Frisch, as we all know, creates 3-dimensional found object sculptures that seem to have sailed in from another universe. Okay, move on. Let's move on to January 2nd, which is Fresh Start. And Fresh Start is actually members of OCCCA themselves who are going to be bringing in work of their own. It'll be an exhibition of artwork made by OCCCA members, and it will be open for the public, we hope. The artwork will be exhibited at the gallery. It will actually be an at-gallery exhibition. So with that, you know, we do follow all protocol as far as eliminating people in and calling in for appointments to come and visit the gallery. All right, next we have car culture. And if you are obsessed with cars, you've got to be part of this one. It's an open call juried by Brian Barcina, assistant curator for MoCA. The deadline for entries is December the 30th, so that'll be here before you know it. Please check our website for specific entry information. Okay, let's move on to Shane Guffogg portraits. This is very exciting and honored to have him at our gallery. It'll be curated by Victoria Chapman, and it'll be self-portraits of the artist covering almost 50 years of his work. This is going to run from March 27th until April 24th of 2021. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Evelyn.
Okay.
Now, for those, I just want to welcome those folks who are just now joining us for this opening reception of Crisis Mode. I want to tell all the artists that there will be a poster for the exhibition, which will soon be available for purchase online. It will include all the participating artists' names. We'll send out an email to all the artists with details when we have them. And now I want to introduce our executive director, Jeffrey Frisch. Jeff, are you here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Successful unmute. All right. So yeah, so thank you for the information so far, Evelyn. Doing a good job. To begin with, I would like to maybe add a little bit to that poster promo, is that I think the goal is also to have an image of each of your works on the poster, which is nice in addition to having your name. In any event, those of you that are familiar with OCCCA, you probably know that OCCCA is a nonprofit 501c3, and actually we're dedicated to, as the mission statement says, the pursuit of professional excellence and freedom and expression of the arts. And OCCCA is in we're in our 40th year, started in 1980. And one of the very few remaining artists and galleries in the nation, I think. There's a few, but not very many. In any event, that's that part of it. We're having an ongoing, especially considering how we've been closed down since March, ongoing sort of promotion and donation drive on our website. We could use any donations that you feel you could make. And meanwhile, I just want to thank everybody for participating in Crisis Mode and congratulating all the artists for being in there. And I also want to give a quick nod to our exhibitions director, Rob Mintz, who actually conceptualized this exhibition months ago. And he needs to get credit for that because it's really, I think, as everybody is going to agree, it's a very, very timely and necessary exploration of what we're doing. So that's it. If anybody has any questions, that's it. If not, I'll be sitting in for a while and then I'll vanish. So thank you very much for participating and have a good evening.
Thank you, Jeff. As most of you probably know from looking at the website, Crisis Mode offers 7 videos for viewing, done by our artists in the exhibit. And one of those is titled Essence of Me, about Andrea Moni, who is here with us. She'll be speaking later. And both Andrea and Kurt Weston, who are in the video, are artist members of OCCCA, and they also both have work in Crisis Mode. So are you ready?
I hope so.
I want to thank my husband, Jake, who is my technical advisor and doer tonight. Here we go.
The moment that I was engulfed with flame was one of the most frightening moments of my life. I spent 20 days in ICU. Every day they would debride my skin in order to help the dead skin come off so that I could heal. They took me out, and that was something I needed desperately, because when you're in ICU, you're stuck there. I came up with this idea of helping other people that have gone through trauma heal through the process of art. The environment sort of takes over, which is part of the process. It's about letting go and collaborating not only with another person, but with the elements. One of my collaborators is legally blind. He sees things much softer, and he sees almost through a filter. He is able to see the essence of the people that he's with. Once I get back to my studio, I see things, messages, images in the canvas. we're all going to go through trauma and experience pain. But what are you going to do with it?
Wow, sort of leaves you wordless. Thank you for sharing that, Andrea. And I think I mentioned that Andrea is going to be one of our speakers, so I hope she'll talk a little more about her process. And Kurt also is going to be a speaker, so we will be able to hear from both of them soon. Lucia, are you here? Did you make it?
I did. I'm here.
Oh, terrific. Where are you, Jake? Can you find her? Oh, there you are. I couldn't see you. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, I would like to introduce Lucia, and please help me with the pronunciation. In fact, I'll ask you if you would mind so that I don't massacre your name, please.
It's Lucia Olubunmi. I'm a curatorial assistant at the UC Berkeley Art Museum. Been an honor really to be able to curate this exhibition or jury this exhibition, and to get to hear all of your voices through your work. I tried to pick as a diverse array of individuals and works as possible, and it's been great to see. I don't know how different people from different parts of the country, different people of different age groups, races, classes are responding to this moment. So thank you guys all for submitting your work and participating.
Thank you. Did you want to say anything more? If you want, welcome for a few minutes. If not, that's fine.
I guess if anyone wants to ask any questions, I only prepared wine. I didn't prepare.
That's a good idea.
But I'm happy to ask, answer any questions about the selection process, or I see a lot of the artists are here, and I'm very excited to see some of your faces to match to the works. So it's wonderful to see y'all.
And we want to thank you so much for your you were so dedicated and being such an excellent and dedicated juror. We really appreciate it. And we can take a few minutes. We have the time. If anyone would like to ask you anything, feel free to unmute yourself and we'll take turns.
Would you like to ask any of the artists any questions of what they submitted?
Ooh, that's a good question. I guess there were several artists where I tried to just pick one work that I thought really spoke to this moment in an innovative way that I hadn't seen from the selection of other artists, or really seen in general at the moment. So I wonder in general if anyone who submitted more than one work, or in particular, there are some people who submitted several works, like, anywhere from 3 to 7, maybe more. If anyone's surprised by which piece I chose. But yeah, I don't want to single anyone out. So.
Okay, Amy Brown just wrote, was it hard to choose or interpret works that appeared more cheerful to fit them into the pandemic?
Actually, no, joy was really what I was looking for. And I had to remind myself that we're in a pandemic and in a terrible situation. Sometimes when I was choosing the works, because I think I was going for too optimistic a view at first. That's, just my own personal journey over the past few months. I've been trying so hard to overall emotion of the work, hopeful, anxious, angry. Ooh, actually, this is a good question to follow up with Amy's question, which is what is the overall emotion of the work? It was really all over the place. There was a lot of hope in a lot of the pieces. When I first dove in, that was what I saw the most, were people using art as a way to reflect and try to create something, if not positive, meaningful to the many discussions that are being had. But what I had trouble sitting with personally was the darkness of the moment, and really sitting with what it felt like for both myself going through not just the pandemic, but the social awakenings, the murders, everyone's been living through this. 2020, sitting with those moments and contemplating really how not even how to move forward, but how do you process and mourn. And there were some works that were really good reminders that it's okay to mourn and that it's okay to be angry. Because that's something I try to push down. I think maybe as a woman more so is the anger. So when I saw it really well expressed and meaningfully expressed, I really appreciated that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions which you can just put into Zoom? That's a great idea. Chat. We're on Zoom.
I'd also
Thank
love
you
to
so
hear your
much.
voices. Sorry.
Thank you so much,
sorry.
Lucia.
Oh, I have a
I
question.
want to encourage everyone to read Lucia's essay that she wrote about the process and about the artwork, some of the artwork she wrote specifically. And you can access that again on OCCCA's website. If you click on the show, there's a link to her essay, and I highly encourage you to go read that. Lucia, thank you. Someone corrected me. I apologize.
May I ask Lucia a question, please?
Yes, this will be our last one.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
I did the video. We don't forget, educate. It's about Chicano artists. How did you like it, and what did you like from it? Because that was my first video, and as an amateur, I want to take some positive criticism here.
Well, I'm sorry, my internet connection might be a little unstable right now, so I hope this comes through okay. What I really just appreciated about that video is that it was educational for me, and I wanted that to come through, to really bring more light onto the Chicano experience. I think right now in the art world, it's missing in a lot of spaces. So that was something I really wanted to highlight. And it was, for as far as I guess art videos go, it was very educational, which I also just kind of appreciated. It was very straightforward in what you were trying to express, and what information we were trying to convey. I don't want to give any I don't know. I'm trying to remember the details of the video as well. And you guys are all also welcome to reach out to me after this. My email is listed on the Berkeley Art Museum's website. But I'm trying to think. No, I think your video it was a different format from the other videos, in that I think the other videos were much more art housey, your video was much more informative, and here's this moment, here's this movement, and here are these works coming out of this this era, and to speak to the history. I'm actually a historian by specialty. The 19th century is my specialty, so I also appreciated that you were talking about history and not necessarily just this moment, but how that moment speaks to this moment. I hope that wasn't too roundabout.
Real quick, I am a Chicano activist and an artist, and I've been doing it for over 50 years, and I've seen the changes from that time back in '69 to the present time. And man, to the present time, this is bad. But thank you for your words of wisdom there. And so if I do another video, but I have shown and curated other Chicano art shows in Orange County, and you're right, we need to be put out there more. And I agree with you. Thank you, and thank you, Robin, for inviting me to this, to be participant in the show.
Thank you, Abe. And there's one more question here that I think there's several more. Okay, was there anything you didn't see that you expected to or wanted to see? Penny Cagney asked this one.
So one thing I was kind of surprised by was that there were not a lot of, well, that's not true. There was a good amount of political statements about the current administration, but I thought that there would be a lot more. I know that we're talking about the pandemic and health crisis. I was a little surprised that there wasn't as much critique about our government at the moment. I was just a little surprised. Not that I was, disappointed. Just what I did see was pretty great and loud. I guess I'm also surprised I didn't see much from the Northwest, geographically speaking. There were people from the Northeast, from the South, from the Midwest. And I lived in Seattle for 4 years and in Oregon for 4 years. I was eager to see what came out of the Midwest in this moment. That's just like a random side note. But I was really excited to see so many works from the South. I was in New Orleans a couple of years ago for grad school. So I was very excited to see. I was glad that we were able to accept those works specifically because this was an online platform. So that was what I was most excited about, I guess, was the geographical diversity. I don't know, I'm going on a little bit of a roundhouse thing. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. Okay, we can do this real quickly. There's one last one that I don't think I mentioned that's on chat from Julie Dobkin. Do you believe the use of art, do you believe the use of art and the personal reflection can help us heal when you feel the world is out of control?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a time for healing and reflection, and when you're in the midst of chaos, maybe, when we're in the midst of an uprising, it doesn't seem like there's time to reflect. But I think that art really is necessary right now, to create art, to see art, to help process what's happening. So yeah, I think art is essential to help you heal. In general, I think art is really helpful to help people heal from personal traumas as well as this collective trauma that we're going through.
Thank you so much, Lucia. And if you're able to stay until the end and there's time for questions, we could continue then. And I was just thinking as you were speaking, interesting timing when we're having this reception, 3 days before today's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 2 days before the election. And I'm sure everyone's feeling as much tension or more than I am, because it's just such tense times. It's good to be together and be talking about using art to address the stuff that's going on. So thank you so much. Now, let's go on to the some of the artists speaking. With over 90 artists and many more pieces accepted into crisis mode, we just don't have time to introduce all of you and have everyone speak. 10 artists have been invited to briefly speak tonight for 3 minutes each. And we will go in alphabetical order. So artists, just be ready for your names coming up. And please, everyone stay muted. And when an artist is called upon, obviously, please unmute yourself. And when you're finished, mute yourself. And now we're having technical difficulties again, opening up the PowerPoint, which of course we had open many times today, but it's got a mind of its own. And in it, Jake will keep working on it. let's just give them some time, because in it is one piece of art from each of the artists speaking. And meanwhile, audience, if you have questions, go ahead and put it in the chat. And if an artist wants to answer a question about your work, feel free to respond. And otherwise, at the end, depending on how much time we have, we can have a verbal Q&A session. Here we go. Okay, Kelly, you're on. Are you here?
I don't have a 10 artists. I just have that.
With each one?
I'm here.
Okay. Tell us about your work.
Well, I'm one of those political artists, I suppose, who is dealing with our current situation. I have reimagined the American flag a couple of times over, and I always wanted to do a flag in distress, because from the last election, I felt like we were in distress already from day one. And it took me a while to figure out how to do this particular flag in distress. I've studied a little bit about Jasper Johns, and he did flags and he did targets, and he didn't get really political about any of his artwork. So, you know, I really thought about this flag in distress for several years during this current administration. And I decided one day, I was sitting in my studio and I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna Jasper Johns this thing. So I took the flag and I put the target together with the flag and figured out, you know, how I was going to interpret my distress of being in distress in a crisis mode in the United States of America. And I put the preamble, the "We the People," into the flag in a written font, and parts of the words are separated in a gray area, like form and perfect and domestic and provide. Each time I was writing this onto this canvas, those words weren't rolling off of my tongue. It felt like we're still working on getting to we the people. And as I thought about we the people, I continued to think about, who are we the people? You know, like, who's included in we the people? As a person of color, I was very curious about this whole thing. And the words that gave thought to me were united, provide, domestic, establish, etc., etc. And in the stars, I have a series of a States of Being series that I've done with the stars, and that is, I put the Morse code in, which is ... which is, you know, save our ship. And for me, it's save our ship, it's save our souls, it's save our state. And somehow I figured out how to do, if you squint at the stars, you'll see subliminally this SOS upside down in a flag of distress that I thought was, you know, important to share in my state of distress. So everybody knows who we the people are, and my target is the colors of humanity: the red, the yellow, the brown, the black, the white, and the races of people, as they say. And I put the words from the preamble, you know, the liberty, the defense, the tranquility, et cetera, et cetera. I added a few extra words like civility, speech, voting. I took darts, physical darts, and took off the heads and made Twitter birds out of the darts and put on the darts. And I physically just jabbed the darts onto the canvas, made several other holes throughout this canvas, because I felt like all of our, what's the word I'm looking for? Our values have been slowly eroded through this administration, through the tweet, the social media of a tweet. And I just feel like all those little darts and Twitter birds should be everywhere on this bullseye for the sake of America right now, because our democracy is really in peril. And I'm just trying to keep my my head up, my heart strong, my hope together in the next couple of days, that this country does not disappoint in the way that I imagined my world as an American citizen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kelly. Next on our list is Vivian Chen. I know you're there, Vivian, because we chatted before. Oh, Vivian, you need to unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm trying to find the
Great.
Yeah, I
It's done.
am. About when I see what happened this year, I cannot help but looking back to the long history in China. And traditionally, the Chinese believe that a ruler or a leader of a country must have mandate from the heavens. And the mandate determines whether an emperor is sufficiently virtuous to rule. And she or he must be a just leader who has a Tao. And the Tao is interpreted most of the time the way it is a harmonious force that keeps the universe running smoothly. So if this leader doesn't have Tao and does not fulfill his or her obligation as the ruler, then he or she loses the mandate. And then natural disasters will fall upon his or her nation. The natural disasters often referred to are famine, flood, earthquake, pandemic, and other divine retributions bearing signs of heaven's displeasure with the ruler. Those are the things that we are having right now. Such an unjust ruler must fall. So throughout the Chinese history, when time of natural disasters happens, it was often taken as a sign that the heavens considered the incumbent rulers unjust and in need of replacement. The rebellions of the people and the change of dynasties are justified. Such kind of teaching is seen in many of the Chinese classics. I chose the second paragraph of chapter 39 of Dao De Jing as the guiding theme of this painting. The sentence translated, quote unquote, without Tao to keep their mind noble and high, the kings and the leaders must soon fall. So that rings so true now. So the way I execute this painting is to write those teachings over the disasters that I can put together. As you will see on the left-hand upper corner, there were fires. On the right-hand lower corner was the flood and hurricane and the injustice, the Supreme Court, and the flag shredded, and the coronavirus, and the head, the corona was attached to somebody's head. But anyway, those are all disasters showing that the heavens think this incumbent is not a suitable leader. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vivian.
You're welcome.
Next is Stacey Gregory. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry, Tara Daly. Thanks. Are you here?
Hi, everyone. I'm here. So good to be with you all.
Great.
Kelly and Vivian, I loved your works and I loved your presentations. And they really spoke well to each other as well. So this is my piece. It's a ceramic diptych that I made. I started making during the shelter in place. It doesn't really speak to the United States or the coronavirus directly, but as you can see by the title, The Holocene is Over, it speaks to the larger crisis that these things are happening in, which is the Anthropocene. And You would recognize probably the Romulus and Remus in the foreground, suckling at the teat of the she-wolf, and one of those brothers kills the other in order to found Rome. And the she-wolf is tied by satin ribbon and connected to my rendition of a Diana of Ephesus, which is I think a Grecian goddess who also, like the she-wolf, has many teats, but it's interesting, she's depicted sometimes with nipples and sometimes without, but always with bulls usually on her shoulder, or a skirt full of like bulls in a bullpen. And I heard a theory that the breasts around her torso were not actually breasts, but testicles, bull testicles. And I thought that was a really interesting way of turning like this fertility and fecundity, the symbol of nurturing and abundance, into sort of from mystery into a symbol of wealth and domination with the bull. And I think that that is this sort of empirical thinking is really what has led us to this crisis that we're living through, where it's been said that we have maybe 60 harvests left of industrial agriculture and things are really falling apart. And I would like to return to a Tao of an honorable, not just leadership, but union, I think. And that's the crisis that I think we're living in. I see its roots here in this history of our of empirical canonization. And that's my spiel. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Tara. Okay, now, Stacey, if you could please unmute yourself.
Yes.
Hi.
My piece is called Pandemic Dominoes. And it's an assemblage that's based on a New York Times article written by Thomas Friedman called How We Broke the World. And in that article, he talks about how religious and economic pandemics can give rise to actual biological ones. And I was fascinated with that article because it took a long view of how pandemics develop and what the future can hold if we don't change certain criteria for these pandemics. If you start at the bottom left of your screen and of my image there, the article starts basically with 9/11. And in my head, I thought, wow, this is a decade-long domino effect. And so the Twin Tower collapse for me were the way to begin this domino trail. And those give rise to religious fracturing, the burning of the oil fields, the dollar collapse. Now we're approaching the middle of the map there. The dollar falls, banks invest in subprime mortgages. And so now which don't work. So now all the homeowners are underwater. The big banks are bailed out in 2008, as you remember, Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns. The US government did that, but it had a lot of help from international governments, and $700 billion came from China. As you approach the upper right of the map, there we are in China. Our relations have softened between them, and we have increased trade. As you're going down the side there, we take sort of a personal, a micro approach. And as China has developed in prosperity, it's also destroyed a lot of the natural buffer habitats between wild species and the urbanization of its development. And so some of these species infiltrate cities. And one of them is the palm civet, which is kind of like our raccoon. And that is an ingredient in a soup called dragon tiger phoenix soup. The dragon is a snake, the phoenix is a chicken, and the tiger is the palm civet. And so the civet's called an intermediate host. And so a bat carrying the virus, which has about a 96% RNA match with humans, gets a hold of a civet. The civet's prepared for the soup. There's blood transfer between the civet and the cook. And then there's recombinant DNA or RNA events. And SARS is born. So if you remember SARS, there was one doctor, Dr. Liu in Beijing, who flew to Hong Kong. He stayed in room 911 at the Metropole Hotel in Hong Kong. He attended his nephew's wedding. He was infected with SARS. He infected the wedding party. People flew back to their countries. But the thing about SARS is that through government cooperation and contact tracing, we were able to relatively easily stop the spread of SARS and there were about 8,000 victims, 4,000 of which could be traced directly back to Dr. Liu. So there was a lesson to be learned there. As the years go by and more habitat destruction happens around the world, these cases of zoonotic diseases are going to continue to develop. And we're back now approaching this infinity loop center, and with increased trade, you have increased travel. And for the upper left quadrant, we are now approaching how we developed COVID-19. The pangolin is suspected to be the intermediate host there. That's a black market animal that's used for medicinal purposes in China. And we have the whole wet market situation going on in Wuhan, and the development of of COVID-19. And as we approach the end of the board, we have the dominoes show various PPE procedures that may or may not be taken. The cases increase. The development of vaccines, you can see the hypodermic needles. Maybe those vaccines can work this time. The last two dominoes, the second to last one is the COVID cell, and then the portrait of Earth from space. And then the last domino, which veers off the board, is left blank. The point of my piece is to show that, again, we need to get control of our environment, the buffer zones between these intermediate animals that act as hosts. The pangolin has a 99% RNA match with humans for COVID. So if we don't, it's going to keep happening. Pandemics are going to develop with different animals, and we won't be able to keep up. So around this map, I've inserted excerpts from the article and also from scientific journals that kind of walk the viewer through the progression of the rise and fall of the dominoes, so you sort of know where you are in the progression of things. But it was very informative for me to learn how this actually developed over decades of circumstances that are global, but also on individual scales as well. And so I learned a lot, and that's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacey. Wow, there's a lot there.
Yeah, it's pretty dense.
Rosemary, Meza-DesPlas, did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Oh, great. Finally.
Good evening. Hi, I'm a Latina artist based in Farmington, New Mexico. My artwork, Marching Across Your Lawn, The Grass is on Fire, was created by hand stitching human gray hair, my own hair. The hair, which is gray, reflects my own aging process. Hair has a relationship to sexuality, age, race, social class, health, power, and religion. While I have degrees in painting and drawing, I consider myself a self-taught fiber artist. And in this artwork, I'm translating traditional drawing techniques into sewn marks. My utilization of hair coincides with feminism at the point that it speaks to issues of body image, femininity, and identity. This fiber work is from a series that's focusing on the theme of marching, which is my current series. The act of marching involves banding with others upon an agreed upon date. The individual becomes subsumed by the larger group. And therefore, in these works, I'm not focusing on the faces. While one might march with a larger group as a demonstration of numbers, when one goes home and continues their daily life, they must decide whether or not to continue their political activism as an individual practice. So when the protest is over, the pussy hats are put away, the signs are disposed of, the costumes are packed up, what individual practice of protest is left? Volunteer political activism? And then how much power does the individual have? The marching women in this piece are depicted nude. There is a history of partially nude women as political symbols. In Eugene Delacroix's painting, Liberty Leading the People, Liberty strides forward over fallen men. Her robust figure, with one breast exposed, holds high the French flag. She's the incarnation of the French Republic, who reveals her breast to inspire political feelings of nationalism. The breast becomes a symbol for freedom. So in my works, the nude female body conveys vulnerability, yet defiance at the same time. The bodies are shown with blemishes on the flesh and evident signs of aging to denote the variety of demographics present in a protest march. The hustle and bustle of the march, while structurally organized, is also visually disheveled. The composition of these figures reflects the varying tempos of a demonstration. And I'd like to say a thank you to Lucia, the juror, for including my artworks in the exhibition Crisis Mode. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. And now we turn to Andrea Moni, who we have already met. Andrea?
Well, hello, and I'd also like to thank Lucia for selecting the video as well as And This Too Shall Pass. I just feel like I need to change the pace a little bit here because, well, maybe I'll give you a little bit of history about me. I'm a daughter of a German and a Swedish immigrants. My mother was affected in the Second World War. Their home was bombed, and she had to live in a bomb shelter and search for food in order to survive. And when she was about 16, 17, finally she was able to leave Germany and immigrate to the United States. My father's Swedish. I'm married to an Argentinian, and I've lived 6 years in Buenos Aires. That was during the major collapse of that country. We lived there for 6 years, and in 2001, 2001, we left the Argentina because of the crisis there politically, and they went through And I don't know if any of you were aware of what happened in Argentina during that time, but they went through 4 presidents in a matter of months. So what we're going through is difficult, but living in some of these other countries can be very difficult as well, different countries all over the world. And we arrived, I arrived, lost everything. The bank shut down. We lost all of our money. We couldn't get access to it. We lost our home. And so at 40 years old with 3 children, I returned to the United States. And that's when 9/11 hit. So it was a difficult time, but we worked hard, and that was the great thing about this country is luckily I had still the American passport, although my husband, who was Argentinian, did not have his green card. And he was at that point, Bush had changed the immigration laws. And so my husband was not allowed to come back as a green card holder, even though he had one and turned it in, and he was married to me, an American citizen, and we had 3 children that 2 of them were born here. So I had to sponsor him, but of course at 9/11 there was no jobs. So at 40 I had to try to reinvent myself and start all over. During all this time, art has always been something that I've fallen back on, and just being creative, it really helped me. And then in 2015, I had this major accident where I was burned over a large percent of my lower body, 3rd-degree burns. And so I just felt like I needed to do something that it had to be for a purpose, a better purpose. Suffering is something that has been going on forever, and it's going to continue to go on. And we're going to get sick, and we're going to die, and things are going to happen, and countries are going to fall, and others are going to rise. But it's, to me, there's something that we are supposed to be learning here. And I do believe that we need to fight and I totally agree on environmental issues. My artwork, I do it in the environment, and I do it with non-toxic pigments that I have sourced that have they come from Oregon, and they're not bad for the environment. And I try not to make a lot of more stuff, because I think that's one of our biggest problems. And so I paint on just raw canvas, and I don't frame them, I don't stretch them. It's kind of a political message for me. And also it's because they're so large, I can roll them up. But this piece, and This Too Shall Pass, was one of the first ones done in this new process after I was burned. And basically it's really kind of more of a message that it was to me. The burn, the red that you see sort of in the chest and the leg and on the arms was where I was burned. And the posture was the posture I took after I was lit on fire. And, I really, really, really believe that we have to take all of these things that are happening, and we have to learn from them. And one of the things that I learned was that I needed to do something for others as well. And that's how I got to this process. They collaborate, and the collaborator that did this background is fighting lung cancer. And as you saw, Kurt in the film with me collaborated on the background, which I'm working on back here, is legally blind. And I get to know the people and what they have gone through in their suffering. And to me, the work is taken a whole nother direction. And it's more of a movement And I have 3 children, and they're all out there voting, and they're very, very distraught with the way the world is going, and they want change, but they want big change. They want environmental change. They want governmental change. And the truth is that if we don't give them something positive and we don't show them something better, there's little hope. And when my son graduated from the University of Miami in marine biology, a very renowned marine biologist spoke, and she said it's the environmental issues are getting to be to the point there's no return. But she gave them hope, saying that we can turn this around. And I believe that we can. I really do. I believe that we have the capability of making change. And so that's what I'm trying to do with the work. I'm trying to collaborate with others that have gone through pain and suffering and tell their story, and in a hopeful way, in a positive way. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. And I'm really glad that you're all a member of this exhibition, and very interesting what you all have to say. Thank you, Lucia, for your participation.
Thanks, Andrea. I'm going to move on now to Chad Morris. Please unmute yourself.
Okay.
And Chad, is this the correct orientation?
Yes.
Good, good.
So this, I painted this piece back in 2017. It was a part of a series called Self-Portrait. Basically, I was really working with a lot of clay and wood panel at that time, and trying to express through texture the development of basically like a child through adult life, through color and texture. This piece, as a gay artist, I really wanted to express what it was like to develop from a place when I grew up in the 90s where it was very unacceptable to be gay. And certainly now in the state of the country we're in now, where there's even I guess we feel it almost isn't exactly safe to be gay now, because the current presidency and the possibility of overruling certain laws that could affect us are in question. This piece was something that came out, I think it was the 4th piece out of the series. So several after that were a lot more bright. This one is kind of communicating the evolution of starting with the granite, which is suggesting where we begin, and then birth beyond that, the primary colors, to eventually getting to a softer place where coming out and experiencing that emotion is communicated in the middle of the painting. And then immediately following, we see kind of a dark masculine series of colors to protect that initial emotion. And I've shown this several times in the city I'm in now, over the last 3 years. This piece is only one of the paintings that I've used to communicate this emotion. I've had about 3 or 4 in the series for Self-Portrait that communicate the struggle of being gay and shrouding that gayness in masculinity, or a learned masculinity. So yeah, that's it's kind of where what I wanted to share today. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Chad. Jared?
That's me.
Hi. And is your name spelled correctly here?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, good. Just clearing up a few.
I heard someone laugh from the piece. That's good. So before I do anything, obviously, thank you so much for my pieces being accepted into this. I feel like I already mentioned this before, but I'm kind of in awe of the company I'm in right now, because every piece I've seen so far is in another league than anything I've ever been featured alongside, I think. And you're all such spectacular artists so far. And hope all of you will message me your Instagrams or however is best for me to follow your artwork in the chat or whatever, because I want to keep up with everything I'm seeing so far. It's all really, really, really such phenomenal work. I guess I have to talk about myself now, shit. So I've sort of always drawn my entire life in order to deal with everything, whether I'm feeling happy one day, or angry or scared or sad or confused. The entire emotional spectrum. I had always made pieces to represent what I was feeling, including political thoughts. And I had done that my entire life, but I wasn't really showing most of it to people. It was usually in sketchbooks that I kept to myself, because it was just a means of me scribbling the rage out of myself. And that, when that changed was when Donald Trump got elected, because it was my mom actually who was the most correct I think I've ever heard her be in her entire life, in my entire life, when she said, like, you need to make this stuff for people to see it now. And I was like, that's ridiculous, because I'm just somebody raging. Nobody wants a poster in their house of the things that make them mad or the things that make them sad. Although I've been proven wrong on that. I've been proven so very wrong on that, because it turns out people like me. They really like me. So anyway, where I was when I made this, it's probably, if you guessed that it happened after the Shithole Nation comments came out, you'd be right. So basically, I made this initially just sort of when I was consumed with the rage I felt when I heard those comments, the Shithole Nation comments. And I have a lot of artwork, maybe unfortunately, that is based upon terrible comments that I've heard, including political cartoons and stuff like that. And basically, I made this just to get the rage out, just to let the anger out, because I thought, like, man, if I'm feeling terrible hearing Donald Trump say these things, or hearing about him say these things, it's one of the few cases where I think there wasn't a recording of it. If I'm feeling angry about this, I can only imagine how angry people must feel when they're in the group that he's talking about. And I've had anger when I've been in the groups that he's talked about before. So this is one of the times where I didn't make the piece based on that. And at first, it was just me making it to make myself, to help me get that feeling out of rage, and also secondhand rage that I felt like anybody who hears this must be feeling. And then I think that changed when I was convinced to bring it to, I think it was probably the Chocolate and Art Show. It might have been the Pancake and Booze Art Show. And I got a lot of people going up to me who are within the demographic, who you'd think would be most upset by this, and were telling me, thank you for making this. So with that, I thought, okay, maybe it's okay for me to share this, even though an argument could be made that it's not my perspective. I mean, it is my perspective. It's a mix of a lot of things. So basically, what I was thinking about when I made this, in addition to all that anger about the Shithole Nation comments, is I tend to put things, I put things in sort of an entertainment perspective. And while a lot of my pieces are designed to help somebody sit in the feelings they're having, not all of it's political, some of it's just, I need to make a piece that represents when I'm feeling afraid. So I create a piece of artwork that allows you to sit in the feeling of being afraid. But in this case, I was like, I need to make something that gives people a little bit of joy, or maybe wish fulfillment, perhaps, for a moment. And I was like, I think what it goes back to is actually the cover to the first issue of Captain America, which, if you guys are familiar with that, the first issue of Captain America came out before World War II started. not, or sorry, or rather, it was before America had entered World War II. And yet the cover to the first issue is Captain America punching Adolf Hitler in the face. The Captain America was developed by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby because they were angry American Jewish people, kind of like me. And their feeling was that they could make a comic that was a political statement. And they were saying basically saying with that cover, Captain America isn't what America is. Captain America is what America should strive to do. In this case, punching Adolf Hitler in the face. So given that I tend to look at old comics, record album covers, things like that, to sort of help guide my process sometimes, in this case, I was like, wow, Captain America punching Hitler is such a good focal point of the rage of a Jewish American. Maybe now I can channel that into a Black Power fist. So here's some guy with a long red tie getting knocked out by a Black Power fist. And hopefully at some point, it's not just wish fulfillment, but maybe some sort of reality. That's my spiel, unless someone has questions or something.
Thank you very much, Jared.
Thank you.
And now we move on to, is it Nirali? You here? Nirali Thakker? There. Are you trying to unmute yourself? Are you here? Okay, you know what? Let's move on to Kurt, and hopefully if Nirali shows up or gets herself unmuted, then we'll go back to her. So Kurt, you're on.
First of all, I want to congratulate all of you who've made it into the Crisis Mode show. I think it's a wonderful exhibition, and just hearing all the talk about your work is quite fascinating. I am a gay artist who was infected with HIV in the early 1980s and became full-blown AIDS in 1991. I really struggled a lot with the virus, which I see some parallels with HIV, which is a retrovirus, and so is the COVID-19. I see some parallels going on with the viruses. The HIV virus caused me to lose a lot of my T cells. And when I ended up in the hospital with my first case of pneumocystis pneumonia, which is the AIDS pneumonia, I only had 3 T cells left. And I was told, my doctors told my family that I probably would not survive my hospital stay. But I did survive. I experienced 2 more cases of that pneumonia and then had to go out on disability. Shortly after I went out on disability, I ended up getting KS lesions, Kaposi sarcoma lesions all over my face and body, which readily identified me as a person living with AIDS. And because I had that marker on my body, I experienced the stigmatization that many people with AIDS living in that time had to experience, unfortunately. I then, shortly after developing these lesions, had to lose some of my vision to another AIDS opportunistic infection called cytomegalovirus retinitis, which has left me totally blind in my left eye and with only limited peripheral vision in my right eye. I pretty much have devoted much of my spare energy and time to being an advocate within the HIV/AIDS community, and work a lot with doing self-portraits. And this particular self-portrait is called COVID Scanner. It's basically a transmogrification of myself, which is something I feel has happened to our society living under our current political administration, I feel like our whole nation has become transmogrified and in a very distorted sort of way. And I also feel like I can represent that within my self-portrait because, you know, the disease process that I've experienced has also pretty much transmogrified my own body. So I know that the image is rather dystopic, but in many ways I see a lot of what's happening to our environment and our society and what's going on with the disintegration of our democracy as a pretty dystopic kind of reality. So I do like to use my self-representations in order to express the things that I'm experiencing within my own frame of reference, but I think that it can also speak to a broader, give a broader message out as to what's happening in a more universal concept. But I have been very fortunate that I can continue to do my work even with my vision loss. And in fact, I don't know if Lucia is still with us, but I was involved in 2004 at a show at the Berkeley Art Museum called Blind at the Museum, which was very inspirational, included visually impaired and blind artists from all over the world. And it was really quite amazing to see the disability people with disabilities represented that came to the lecture series and viewed the show and viewed the exhibition. So it was a very inspirational show, and I see some parallels to that show and to what's included in this show, and I think it's pretty amazing to see and hear what the artists who have contributed to this show have been able to provide in the way of their conceptualization of how they're seeing our socio-political situation as it is today. And then, as Andrea mentioned, I was very happy to work with her on her video piece and create a collaborative piece of work with her. But this work I actually generated using a flatbed computer scanner. I put my face on the scanner, and then I moved my face along with the scanner to sort of create that elongation and that distortion. As we know, the COVID affects a lot of the respiratory system. So the mouth in this piece is gasping, kind of grasping for air. There's like kind of shock and horror. And of course, the eyepiece in my eye is a representation of my own vision loss. So I hope there will be a vaccine that will be available for treating this horrible virus. I know that it's not, they haven't yet been able to develop a vaccine for HIV, which is another retrovirus. So it can be a tricky thing. I think retroviruses are very difficult to develop vaccines for. I know everybody's hopeful, and I hope that will come to pass. But I also could see the possibility of, just as I have for the last 30 years, have been surviving on pharmaceutical therapeutic drugs to circumvent the virus, the HIV virus in my own body. I can see that, you know, potentially that might be something we might have to do as a nation, as well as take therapeutic antiretroviral medications to thwart the COVID-19 virus if a vaccine is not successful. But anyway, I'm very appreciative of being in the show and very happy to see everybody's work.
Thank you, Kurt. I don't can go back to Nirali's. I don't think Nirali is here. Are you? But we can maybe take a quick look at her artwork on the PowerPoint. Here it is, just so we can see it. And I want to thank everyone who spoke so much. It really, I don't know what to say. It's just fascinating, wonderful to hear what you have to say. So with that, unless someone has something pressing to say, I want to say thank you to everyone, and thank you to Lucia for choosing two of my pieces in the show. It's just a thrill, especially when I see what good company I'm in here. And there seem to be no more pressing questions, so I want to move into the last part of the program. And I will hand it over to Robin for a toast to Oka and the artists and Lucia. And if Sohaila has been able to make it, she will join Robin. And I want to thank Robin so much for everything you do to keep Oka going now, and for basically putting this show together administratively, plus in other ways. So Robin?
Thank you, Beverly. Appreciate that. Thank you for all the work you put in for the moderation tonight. And I want to thank our executive director, Jeffrey, and assistant director, Evelyn DeLu, as well. But especially I want to thank our juror, Lucia. She made this all possible, and she did such a great job selecting fabulous art. I'm so proud of everybody. I put the Instagram name for where you can connect with our Oka Instagram. Also on Facebook, we have two pages, just the regular Orange County Center for Contemporary Art Facebook page, but we also have the OCCCA fan and community page. So I hope everybody will post and connect with us and join and be our friend on that, and then we can all stay in touch. So, well, let's party. I wish we were at the gallery, darn it, person, because we usually have an opening with 2,000 people come to our openings, and it's really fun. The gallery is over 6,000 square feet, and it's a beautiful space. But let's drink to crisis mode, and we're going to get through this. Like somebody said, it's only a couple more days, hopefully. Yeah. Salute, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, great artists. Thank you, Oka. Thank you,
Happy
Lucia.
Dia de los Muertos.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
agree.
Thank
And
you
there's
all.
my flag.
Stay safe and healthy and all that.
Thanks for coming tonight, everybody. Let's all stay in touch.
Yeah, don't forget to vote.
Yes,
you.
I forgot. Thank you. Thank you. If you haven't voted already, make a plan and do it.
Yeah. It's thanks to Jake for technical. There he is.
Salute, salute.
Salute. Cheers. Manuya.
I'll keep the Zoom open for another 5 minutes. For
Oh yeah, drinking. Let's linger for a while.
Yes, it's been so nice.
I know, finally. It's just great to see everybody. Welcome back, Andrea.
Gosh, how many are here?
How many
do we have tonight?
Around 80 or 90 at one time.
Great.
I didn't count that many. I kept getting repeats of people in the line for some reason. The
Well, there
same person.
3 pages of 20.
And then there were 18.
We're down to 18 at the moment. But
17. This is like a monster movie.
They probably all have to go have dinner, or
It can't be dinner. It's just that this Zoom meeting was written by Agatha Christie.
okay.
Only logical
It's
explanation.
10:30 for me.
I know Kelly's back in
New York. Yeah.
I'm in Boston right now.
Oh, I meant the East Coast is what I should say.
Oh my goodness.
I'm in Minnesota. We've already had snow and it's really cold.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, just Lucia. I just wanted to say that I saw that there were a couple artists who didn't get to speak, although I think one just left. One was Craig Shepley, but I think he just left. But I also saw Danielle and Brian still on the call. Just wanted to say I really loved your pieces. I know that they weren't in the slideshow today, but they were really great and brought in other voice as well. Because I think something that's lost. I'm interracial and I was brought up white working class in a lot of ways. And Danielle's piece kind of spoke to a lot of people that I grew up with that I feel like are getting lost and sucked into the realm of Trump in a lot of ways that I wanted to see more of in the art world. And also Brad's piece, I don't know if he's still on or not, was just real fun. Kind of this dystopic sculpture is what I want to call it. But it was also a vehicle to get through the world as it is right now. So I just wanted to highlight those pieces. Then Craig Shepley, I think, just dropped off, unfortunately. But his pieces were very overtly political and wonderful. And I highly recommend y'all check them out. And I've heard from some of you guys already tonight. So it's great hearing from you.
With that, Lucia, I think that you are a great one to end this program. And again,
awesome.
Thank you so much for being such an involved juror. It's wonderful.
No
Really
problem.
appreciate it. And thank you.
We're lucky you'll be back again.
Pardon me, Robin?
I'd love to have you back again as a juror somewhere in the future when we can have a show in the gallery.
Yes.
That would be great. That would be awesome.
That would be lovely. Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. for your participation.
Good
Thank you,
job,
everyone.
Beverly.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
I also
Thanks
just
for
messaged a
doing
few
that.
people back I didn't get to yet, so
All
be sure to
right.
check before you leave so that you know I responded to you.
Thank you, everybody, for all the beautiful work and putting all of this together. It's been really an honor to be part of this.
Great.
It's awesome. All right, I'm going to close. Bye-bye, guys.
Good night.
Thanks.
Good night. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody. Stay safe.
Good night.
Take care. Bye.